In the next hour, we'll talk about a unified HCM platform and why it matters, why it's important to Johnson & Johnson, and we'll discuss Workday's unified solution and Johnson & Johnson's journey into the cloud and beyond that into an integrated talent management solution, and really the value that they hope to achieve with this unified platform. So you didn't need to sign into this webinar or join us today to know that our world is changing, but it is definitely changing at a rapid pace. In the people-driven economy, your workforce is likely to represent a large percentage of your organizational spend, and arguably it's probably your greatest asset. So let's look at how things are changing. If you think about people today, they're more social, more mobile, more global, more informed, more collaborative, and their expectations are different. They're used to the consumer internet. They're used to LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, Amazon. That is the experience that they're used to, and that's really what they expect, not just from their everyday consumer world, but they expect that in their business world, in the workforce. Technologies are changing. Everything's more mobile. Everything's going to the cloud. So businesses need to accommodate to these changing technologies. And when we talk about business, the business landscape is changing. It's definitely more global. Our world is much, much smaller. You know, we span the globe. It's much more complex, and it's moving at a much faster pace than we've seen before. So if we think about the challenges that some of your organizations might be facing, and the challenges that they might be facing if you have disparate systems, particularly across the globe. You might have multiple systems that need to integrate and talk to each other. Something that sounds as simple as getting information, we all know isn't that simple. It's hard to get it when you have it in multiple places. Trusting that information that you receive. When it's from multiple sources, how do you know which one trumps the other? Which is my one source of truth? Where do I get everything that I need? Maybe you're duplicating processes, so it's inefficient. And if all of this is somehow pieced together, how do you keep all of this integrated, and what's the cost of that integration? As well as, how do you have the agility to change processes or how you achieve information in one place? Is this what your talent and HR systems look like today? Are they kind of bolted on and you're kind of hoping that it all kind of fits together? Do users have different experiences in your different systems? And when you think about different systems, different user experience, I just mentioned that. What about different report writers? What about different security setups? So how does that all come together? So definitely we see the challenges that people face when you don't have that one unified platform. So we kind of like you to imagine a different approach, a unified approach, where HR has the ability to handle, HR, your people, your employees, your managers, they have the ability to handle the day-to-day business. So the transfer, promoting, just all the things that happen in the day-to-day world. And when we look at unified, you want them to be able to handle that, but you want them to also be able to see it in the context of, well, do I have the right talent doing the right work at the right time? So it's that optimization. How do I make sure that I have all the pieces so I'm getting the most out of my workforce, so I am the most efficient? And it is about having all of these things in one place. So when we say unified, we say that you should have recruiting and your benefits, your core HR, your core system of record, which doesn't sound that exciting, but is absolutely essential to handling everything else. You should have your talent on top of that. So again, it's back to that optimization, making sure I have the right people in the right job at the right time. And this is the world that Workday provides, where we have all of this together But very importantly, if I can draw your attention to the middle of the page here, that it's designed for the way people work. So it's that consumer user experience. So the things that they're used to doing to be able to search and find very easily. It's available where you want it, when you want it, on mobile. The actionable analytics. So I can get insight into the information, but I can also take action on it. And very important, I need to be able to collaborate. So all the ways that we talk about how our world is changing, Workday gives you the ability to manage your workforce within all those constructs. And really what it is here is the ability to have the entire life cycle together. So from recruitment to retirement, all the different pieces working together. So that providing that full spectrum of your workforce life cycle, providing what you need to optimize your business and your people. So from when you begin to search for candidates, and so that the people can feel that they have that trusted key asset, your talent, and you're ready to move them on through the process in your organization. So in stark contrast to the challenges that I showed you earlier, what this really provides for you is, I'm going to talk about three main things. It provides you that choice and flexibility. So giving you the ability to do it your way, so you can have control over how people perform processes in your organization. And you can change them based on your global requirements, where you may not have the same requirements in China as you do here, but we can handle that very quickly and easily. Where I have standard processes, I can use them, but I can change them where necessary. The user engagement is really very important here as well. And it's not just because we have a consumer user interface. It's because it allows employees and managers to do their jobs better, where people are informed, they have the information, and which kind of leads me to the next piece here, which is that complete insight. So on the engagement front, they trust the information that they have to make these decisions, and on the insight front, they're better informed. So your managers and your leaders are way better informed to make the better decisions that you want your organizations to make. So again, back to being able to optimize. I need to know who has the right skills to put them on a project. I need to know if they're near me or are willing to relocate, or, if I'm just trying to build a new call center, for example, where do I have the best qualified people that maybe don't cost me the most amount of money? So putting that all together so that you can definitely manage your workforce. So let's take a look maybe at a few examples. So what I've brought up here is what we call a worklet. So it's an analytics, and what we've done is allow you to surface that information quickly and easily. And this is a great intersection between your talent information and just the other information that you want to have in your system. So in this case, I might categorize my businesses by how they're doing, whether they're declining or growing or sustaining. But what's nice is I can then intersect my talent with that. And what this tells me, first of all, is that I'm doing pretty well on that emerging and growing front, where I have top talent in those categories. But what's concerning to me, if you look at that very top line, on the declining front, I've got top talent in those declining businesses. Well, what if I decide to divest? I'm going to lose that top talent. But this now has given me that insight so I can actually take action. I can drill into who those people are. I can see where they are. And very importantly, kind of highlight some things, such as I have one person who's in a critical job. I probably don't want to lose that person, or I want to then take action, which now I can actually tag them and put them in a talent pool and take action on the whole group if I want, or I can just drill into the individual and take action from that person. So you'll see it's showing me, again, even more insight as I keep going through. It's showing me that Elsa here, if I look at her lost impact, if you kind of have to look there at this preview card, I can see that it's significant. So not only is she in a critical job, it's significant. So based on how my business is doing, I might want to take action, which I can definitely do from here, and maybe drill all the way into everything I know about Elsa, such as her experience, education. So this is the value of having all of this together, where I can make decisions and go all the way down to the individual should I need to do that. So I can take action on the whole or down to the person where it makes sense. We can also see these analytics, such as the worklet that I showed you earlier, in a dashboard. I'm waiting for it to come up for just a second here. Let's go next. Okay. So these are just other examples of how we can bring the information together. And in this case, I kind of focus on my talent information. I can see my talent pipeline for succession. So showing me things like analyzing my talent bench, if I have any succession plans that are at risk. I can see, in this case, it happens to be a 9 box, but we call it an N box because it's completely configurable, but I can see where my people stack up and have the ability to then go and drill into them. And very importantly, I can see where we should be to achieve our goals. So based on the goals of my organization, which I have at the higher level, I can then look at all my people and how they stack up. Let's go back to that 9 box, which I showed you. In this case, I'm showing it to you in the context of a calibration exercise. As I mentioned earlier, you can configure it however you want. It doesn't have to be a 9 box. That just happens to be example. But the nice thing here, again, it comes back to kind of user engagement and insight, is I can drag and drop as I'm deciding how to calibrate my team. If I can draw your attention to the left-hand side of the page, you'll see that I can then refine and with the facets that I have here. And this is really the value of the unified system, is I have kind of all my organizational things already set up so I can look at things in that capacity. And then, I showed you earlier, I can easily drill into the individual and take action on that individual. So not only can I calibrate her here, but I can then decide maybe there's some action I need to take, like putting her on a leadership development plan, or really any type of action that I might need to take, even doing a compensation change right from here, should I need to do that based on the information that's been surfaced for me. And a few more examples that I'll show you here, really probably just 2 more. In this case, that complete insight that we think is very, very important to make those better informed decisions to optimize your workforce, well, it's important to have them not just to go to it's nice to have the analytics and the dashboards, but I really want to know in the context of actions I'm taking in my system. So in this case, this happens to be a performance review. It could be a compensation change. It could be anything that you do in your system. In this case, I have the corresponding information that's going to tell me things like, what's the history of the review ratings? Show me things like her tenure and her whether she's been promoted in the last year or so. So again, highlighting that information within the context of actions that you're taking is very, very significant because, again, it allows me to make a better informed decision, and it really allows your managers, your employees, to be more engaged in every process that they're involved in. Last but not least, we're going to, as you can see here, this happens to be a merit and bonus process that I'm showing you here. So we're going to talk dollars and cents. In this case, it's actually not dollars and cents. It's kroners, pesos, and Singapore dollars. But obviously, because you can handle your global workforce here, combining your talent with your compensation, it really is a lever for, how I motivate people, how I reward people, and, just making sure I have all the information together. So within my compensation process, having all of that performance information. And by the way, this whole grid, if you will, that you see here, is completely configurable. So everything that I've showed you in terms of the N box, the configurable grid, you get to decide. You have that choice and flexibility, which is another great benefit of having a unified system, where you use consistent tools throughout as you decide how your processes should work. So with that, I'd like to turn it over, and it really is my privilege to be joined by Michelle Frank from Johnson & Johnson. Michelle works on the Workday implementation project, and I'm going to let her, I'm not going to steal her thunder, I'm going to let her tell the story. But Johnson & Johnson is Workday customer number 268, and we're very lucky to have them as a partner. We definitely, and as Michelle will tell you, work very closely together. So let's get to the really good stuff and turn it over to Michelle so Michelle can tell us about their journey. So, Michelle, if you would, tell us a little about Johnson & Johnson and what caused you to embark on this journey for integrated talent management.
Sure. To me, I would say that there's probably about 4 elements that really led to our decision to seek out a solution that would help us look at talent in an integrated way. And this journey actually started, I want to say, gosh, even probably 10 years ago, and where we said to ourselves, okay, we're facing an external environment that's ever more demanding for us. I mean, we are the world's largest and most comprehensive healthcare organization. Our mission is about caring for the world one person at a time. We really want to make sure that we are providing the right kinds of services and support and solutions that address the rapidly aging population, the fact that healthcare costs are a big part of GDP for a lot of countries, and cost containment is on the minds of lots of people. So all of those kind of elements were swirling around saying, okay, we need to be thinking about the kinds of leaders that we need at Johnson & Johnson to help take our organization forward and address this external environment that's really becoming more demanding. The other thing that I would say is that we were starting to experience some challenging business results. Johnson & Johnson has been successful and continues to be successful, but as many organizations, the business results weren't growing as exponentially as they had in the past. So that was something that kind of made us say, do we need to do some things a little bit differently about how we innovate, how we focus globally, et cetera. We also kind of looked at what do we think makes up some of the magic of Johnson & Johnson? And our leaders came to the conclusion that the employee experience is really a key differentiator for our enterprise, and the fact that we have a credo that we established at the very beginning of our history and live by that, and the fact that we have a very engaged workforce, we wanted to make sure we continued to have that engaged workforce at J&J. And then, we've been receiving feedback in HR that we weren't necessarily providing the best practices and processes to our business leaders. We were sometimes spending a lot of time just hunting and pecking to get the data that they needed to derive the insights that they wanted to bring to the table to make talent decisions. So, there's kind of 4 major elements that I would say. It's the external environment, it's challenging business results, it's the employee experience as a key differentiator, and then the fact that our business leaders are really looking for HR to step up and be and offer kind of best-in-class thought leadership. So we decided that we needed to kind of focus on 3 different areas. Johnson & Johnson is 128,000 employees. We're in 60 countries. We have 275 operating companies, and we have a very decentralized management model. So that means that we allowed 1,000 flowers to bloom. That picture that you showed at the beginning, Christina, was our reality in terms of the number of things that we bolted on, the number of systems that we have, et cetera. So we said, we need to harmonize our policies across our different businesses within a country. We need to think about the right enabling technology that will help us deliver the best services and an integrated approach to talent management. And we needed to optimize our HR service delivery model as well. So we kind of said those are our 3 areas of focus. And in 2009, we thought that our solution would be SAP. And we implemented SAP in 7 markets across our enterprise, some of our largest and most strategic markets, and we outsourced HR transactions. It did not work very well for us. What we found is that dependence on an outsourcer really led to some quality issues that we were not happy with. The technology was very complex. It involved a lot of partnership and heavy IT support in order for us to actually implement and maintain. The user interface, not very elegant, so it required a lot of change management, a lot of training, a lot of upkeep. And then because we opted to deploy in our largest, most strategic markets, it amplified the impact. So we really didn't hit the return on investment that we were hoping we would, with all the input that said we still needed to transform. And so we said, oh, this isn't working for us. And we went on kind of an exhaustive search for the right kind of solution that would help us move forward. Long answer, Christina, but the journey has been a little while in the making.
So, Michelle, what led you to make the decision for Workday? I mean, how did you make a business case for it when you had already tried this with not as much success as Johnson & Johnson had hoped for?
Yeah. I mean, certainly that's a question, right? I mean, we've already made this investment. We'd already engaged in some significant change management for our organization. Why kind of start again, right? But what it really came down to for us as we made the decision in December of 2011 to implement Workday across our enterprise, it really came down to who could offer us the best product that would enable us to take an integrated approach to talent management. As I mentioned at the very beginning, in terms of the things that we were looking to do with our global HR transformation, it's about making sure we've got the right leaders in the right roles at the right time to deliver the results that we need. And we have several tools right now that we use that we have to pull the information together. It's not always accurate. As you mentioned, different security models, different user interfaces, and we had a very difficult time. In fact, one of our business leaders was quoted as saying, we spend 99% of our time trying to find the data, 1% of it analyzing it, and then we have no time to do anything about it, right? So it was really about where could we find the best solution for us that integrated this all together. I would say the second reason why Workday really popped to the top for us is because of the user interface. Very intuitive, very user-friendly. You can get to Workday 24/7 on any web-enabled mobile device, and so for our sales force and others, very important that they have that opportunity. And then I would say some of the sophisticated reporting that you were showing, Christina, and your screen captures there was very exciting to our organization about the kinds of data that would be right at their fingertips, that would be pulled together in one place, that could be accurate so that they could make the right kinds of decisions about talent. And then I would say kind of the last thing, and certainly not the least, is about the fact that you continue to innovate. You work with your community. We all have the opportunity to log brainstorms and tell you where we think that it would be helpful to add functionality. You listen to us, you make changes, and you offer new releases, 3 a year to this point, but going down to 2 a year, where we get the latest and greatest innovations without a lot of heavy IT support. So lots and lots of reasons why I would say that Workday was our solution of choice.
That's great. I love to hear that story. So, Michelle, your ultimate goal is to achieve integrated talent management. You told us kind of about the beginning and how it started. So tell us about the approach that you're taking to achieve it.
Yeah, so given the fact that we are a very decentralized management model at J&J, and we had let 1,000 flowers bloom in terms of the number of systems that we have over 100 HR core systems at Johnson & Johnson. And to replace all 100 of them, in order to get to the point where we could leverage Workday across the organization for integrated talent management, is going to take us a little while. So we have started to do that by, on a country-by-country basis. We have been deploying the core HR functionality. I'm going to call that core HR. So for us, that means transactions from hire through to retire, and being the system, the source of record of source, or I can't say it right now, that feeds payroll. So we've been doing that on a country-by-country basis. And again, as I mentioned, it will take us a while given the number of HR systems that exist there. So we are also deploying what we would call vital capabilities. And for us, that basically means the talent management capabilities in Workday, performance and development, succession planning, and year-end compensation planning on a population-by-population basis across our enterprise, starting at the top of the house. So we have deployed in 6 countries in Asia. For us, we started in that market because we wanted to really prove that we could do it in a global market. There were some aging HR systems there as well that we wanted to replace. We wanted to prove that we could use some of the language translation functionality that Workday offers so wonderfully. And so we went live with about 4,000 employees in October of 2012, replacing core HR systems in those 6 countries listed. Just at the beginning of this month, on October 1st, we launched year-end performance review and talent management to our Vice President and above population at Johnson & Johnson. So that's about 1,200 employees. And we know that 1,000 of them have been in the system to date. We know that we've got over 60% of self-evaluations complete in the system by the people at the highest level of our organization. And I can tell you that from our service center that we established, I mean, it's been wonderful. They're like, what else can we do? We're not answering the phone. We don't have to field a lot of emails here. It's been amazing, and we've been really, really happy with how that's been progressing for us. And we will then, at the beginning of our year in January, expand so that we will be leveraging Workday to start from the beginning of the year doing performance planning, setting goals, that sort of thing, all the way through our mid-year review, all the way through year-end and year-end compensation planning enabled by Workday for another 30,000 employees at J&J. And then by January 2015, and I'm probably getting ahead of myself from the perspective of the slides here, we're going to have all employees across J&J, 128,000 people leveraging Workday for the vital capabilities. And we're really excited about that. It will enable us to retire at least 3 of our other systems that we've been keeping together with spit and glue and some wire. And what you see on this slide, too, is the fact that we are continuing to deploy to countries for core HR functionality as well. And we're going to some of our larger, more complex markets in doing so. We will have all of our Asia-Pacific region done by Q3 of 2014, and we will have made inroads in EMEA. And then we know our next phase is we'll be working with Latin America. So we're thrilled that we're being able to do this, and our ultimate goal, again, is by 2015 that we will be using Workday as the sole system that enables us to support vital capabilities at Johnson & Johnson. And for the majority of our countries, again, it will take a little while to replace legacy HR systems there.
So, Michelle, you talked about your vital capabilities. Maybe you can, talk a little bit more about those, and what are some of the things you hope to achieve as you move towards that integrated talent management at Johnson & Johnson?
Yeah, we have a framework, Christina, here at J&J that we call the 5 conversations. It's a way of ensuring that throughout the year, managers and employees are having robust conversations about their performance, their talent, and their career progression. So within that framework, we in fact, this will be one of the posters that we use when we launch to managers and directors in January. It's about adding Workday to the conversation. So we have these 5 conversations throughout the year, and you see here how we're telling the managers and employees how they'll be able to leverage Workday to really prepare for. It doesn't replace the conversation. It doesn't replace what you're trying to achieve in terms of managing the talent, but is such a key enabler, and it makes it so much easier and more comprehensive so that you can be making the right decisions. You don't have to spend the time gathering the information from various sources, trying to pull it together just to prepare for the conversation. So this is something that we're leveraging as a familiar framework in the way that we're using Workday to help us prepare for those. And then I would say the other thing that we've really tried to outline for people is we think that as you think about the 3 main stakeholder groups at Johnson & Johnson where we're trying to deliver greater value, for our leaders, it's really about having better access to real-time data about our people that's integrated so that they can make better decisions. So, for us at J&J, one of the ways in which we've been growing over time is by acquiring other companies. So by doing that and having this information that we can pull together through Workday, we can really think about how do we retain the right kind of leadership talent? How do we find complementary talent as we're doing our due diligence and thinking about acquiring other companies? What do we know about our own population that we can bring to the table as part of that conversation? And then really about making the right kind of strategic workforce investments in our talent across the organization. For our employees, again, that's some of our magic, we think, at J&J. That's what differentiates us from some of our other competitors, and we want to make sure that we're offering a more consistent experience about HR at J&J for our employees, that it really instills in the employee base that a belief in the fact that J&J is committed to their growth and development, so they hopefully will be even more engaged and committed to our organization, helping us to grow and innovate and offer better health care across the globe. And then, of course, we want it to be easy to use. We want it to be intuitive. We want it to be available whenever they want to be able to use it. And then for HR, I will tell you, I had people, as we were going through some of the training and some of the conversations with our HR population just with this recent launch, I mean, literally, they were just quantum leap. It's what, our employees deserve. This is amazing. I've been waiting for this forever. The people, my colleagues, are just beyond excited about the possibilities and the kind of information that they know is in one place, it's accurate, and they can really use it to be a true strategic partner to the business leaders they support in making the right talent decisions. So, we are looking forward to making sure that leveraging Workday is going to help us deliver really great value to those key stakeholder groups.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, and then the next slide that I have, and I think it's more of kind of a wrap-up, Christina, is really kind of, it's our strategic priorities across HR, and again, those 3 elements that I talked about very early as we were embarking on the journey, and with Workday right in the center there in terms of the enabling technology that allows us to take those harmonized processes and policies across the countries and make sure that that's visible and is embedded in the workflow within Workday. And that if we want to be able to make sure that our business-based HR folks can really be focused as strategic partners to business leaders and really optimize the value that they deliver, we need to make it a little bit more efficient and effective in one tool that we can use for transactions and know that we've got a group of individuals who can do that within HR effectively and efficiently as well. So we are looking forward to a very rosy future. In fact, we call our project Project Sunrise. It's really about the fact that it's a new day for us.
As I said earlier, I do love hearing your story because it has been such a great success, and you guys have been such a great partner with us. You touched on it a little bit, but I can't help myself. I have to ask. So tell us a little bit more about the results so far. I mean, you have said what some of the things people have said, but obviously our next slide leads into that. So let's just talk about kind of the buzz at the moment.
Yeah, and I was ready for it, Christina. See? Yeah, I mean, really, honestly, what's been interesting, and I can see that one of the questions that came across was about kind of change management, and of course, you always want to do careful change management when you're introducing a change of this magnitude, but I will tell you that as we were thinking about what exactly we would have to do, there was an initial reaction that was, we have to go in fairly heavy. This is, a system that people will be using every day, and we need to make sure they know how to use it effectively. And then when they get a chance to really look at Workday, they say, oh, well, maybe we don't have to do as much as we thought we would have to do. And yes, we still have to be careful. Yes, it still has to be intentional. And it doesn't need to be nearly the kind of heavy lift, because we get these kind of reactions like the woman second from the left there. Cool. I love it. It's easy. I can figure it out. Let me add it, more than, oh, yeah, I have to listen to 2 hours about this? No. Just give it to me. I can do it. And really, honestly, I can find it in one place. The system stability is there. We've not had any issues whatsoever from that perspective. And even our support center really knows that we've got the mechanisms in place that enable them to really provide the kind of service that we'd like. So it's been nothing but positive. I will tell you, especially the hesitancy that we had with the first kind of major transformation that we embarked on, and that did not go as well as we'd like. You can bet there were people who were like, all right, we got to tread very carefully here. We got to make sure that we don't get a black eye here, that we do it right. And we've been delighted. No black eyes. no, even close to that. It's just been wonderful. We've got people saying, can you get to us faster? I know it's going to take some time. We know we have to harmonize our HR policies before you can come here, but what if we did it tomorrow? Can you come implement Workday? How fast can we do this? Can't we get to the employees sooner than January 2015? It's starting to be a pull in the organization now that more people have been exposed to it.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing Johnson & Johnson's journey and story with me today, and for being my co-presenter today. It's always a pleasure. And with that, I think we are going to turn it back over to the talent management folks. Thank you all for joining us today.
Great. Thanks very much for that excellent presentation, Michelle and Christina. At this point, like we just said, we're going to proceed to the Q&A portion of the program. We're going to launch the evaluation for today's presentation soon as well, and your feedback is very important to us, so I encourage all of our attendees to take just a few seconds to complete the survey. And with that, we've got a lot of good questions, so I'm going to dive into those. But if you have a question that you haven't submitted yet, go ahead and submit that to the question box, and I'll take care of it. I know some of you have been putting it in the group chat, but if you could put that in the question box, it would be preferred. So without further ado, the first question I have is, what do you use for the holistic HR and employee engagement portal, including HR content and program information? So if one of you could answer that, that'd be great.
Christina, I want to assume this one's for me.
I was doing that too.
Okay. So we do have a global HR portal, a SharePoint site within Johnson & Johnson where kind of our HR policies and practices are housed, as well as the job aids that we did deliver to support the rollout of Workday. So that's all on a SharePoint site that we've developed. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. The next question we have is by Erin. She wants to know how much of the configuration can be done in-house by the tech team versus to a Workday service partner.
Michelle, you want to take that one too?
Sure. So at J&J, we are partnering with Deloitte Consulting, and they've been wonderful partners to us. They've been fantastic in helping us get to all of our key milestones. And you do need an implementation partner in order to do the configuration when you're going live. We have developed expertise in-house as well, and so now that we're live in production, we do have resources who are not necessarily heavy IT specialists, by the way, who are maintaining our configuration.
Great. Michelle, you touched on this, I'm sorry, a little bit, but Stephen is wondering if you can discuss the change management program for the rollouts and any learnings that you can share.
Yes, so what we ended up doing is, and we do it a little bit differently if we're implementing in a country versus when we implemented vital capabilities for the first time for our VP population. So in the countries where everyone is going to start using Workday to do things like ask for time off, for example, they might use it daily even, and there's little exposure to it. We do have a fairly heavy communication plan to make sure that people are aware that the change is coming and they'll need to do it. The training we deliver in person to our HR population, and in some countries they've chosen to deliver in-person live training to their manager population, but the employee population receives information about Workday via job aids that are made available, as well as demonstration videos that are, so our job aids are maybe 1 to 3 pages, and our demonstration videos are more like 1 to 2 minutes. So they self-serve off of that global HR portal I was talking about in order to leverage materials. For our VP launch, we communicated twice. As you might imagine, you're not going to go too heavy with that population. And then we equipped them with those same job aids I was describing, frequently asked questions, online help text that's available, and then the video demonstrations. We did offer optional 1-hour-long demonstrations via WebEx, and I would say probably we had somewhere around 300 or so of the 1,200 that dialed into that. And we did do WebEx live sessions with our HR population, offered it to them as well. But it wasn't all that heavy, is what I would say to you. I really think we kind of right-sized it, but we did not, we did not make people sit down in a room for multiple hours and come in person and that sort of thing.
Along those lines, Amy's wondering, what does your support staff look like for supporting Workday? More specifically, she's wondering about an HRIS manager, HRIS analyst, and things like that.
Yeah, so so our organization is actually part of HR. We're an HR services organization, and then we partner with an IT group, and then finance, actually, because we're having to consolidate our payroll vendors in our countries as well. On the IT side, I would say that there's probably about 12 people that are helping us with this global program. And then my team is probably, I haven't added up lately, but it's likely not more than 12 either. I might be missing 1 or 2 that are on the implementation part of it. And then we have established an operations support team in each of the countries where we've delivered Workday as core HR. We have 2 or 3, because you've got to remember those populations are not very large. But for the VP launch, we have 6 people total, and I will tell you they are not busy right now.
Sorry, I lost the questions for a second. Okay. What type of employee tracking system is being displayed is what Samantha is wondering.
Workday.
Yeah, Workday.
Great. And what are the steps required to optimize the succession planning functionality in Workday? Do you have any tips for that, Bridget asked?
Well, I'll answer that a little. So on the succession planning front, we allow you to do succession planning at at a granular level with positions, or we allow you to do it at a more higher level with job profiles with succession pools. So we allow you to really use both in conjunction. So I can define pools for my profiles, and then I can go down to a more granular level with positions if you use them to define really the actual, spot for succession. So in terms of optimizing, the fact that I have all the other information available to me, so I know the retention risk, I know the tenure, I know the full history of that person and kind of their demographic makeup, if you will, and the rest of my organization. The other thing that I didn't actually show it, but one of the very nice things that we have is what we call our faceted search. And in many cases, it's like finding that needle in a haystack, if you will, where I can search down to job interests, whether people are willing to travel, so all the things that I might want to know if somebody is the right person to put on a succession plan. I have that information about my organization, and I can use it to define my succession pools and the different candidates that might be possible successors, as well as tracking, where they're at. Are they ready now? Will they be ready in a number of months? So all that's, available. So in terms of optimizing it, it really is a matter of setting it up and taking advantage of the more granular and the broader options that we provide. And the fact that you have the unified platform and all of the pieces together really does help you to make sure that your succession plans are set up appropriately, and very importantly, the reporting and analytics allow me to define if something is at risk. So, do I have enough, do I have good bench strength? Do I have enough people in line for my critical jobs? Have I set up succession plans for my critical jobs? So all of that's available in Workday, and, for you to take advantage of in terms of succession planning.
And I'll pile on a little there, Christina, as well, to say that one of the things that Workday does is they work with certain customers on feature designs, and I was lucky enough to be on one of those groups to help think about the fact that now in Workday you can have managers, quote-unquote, nominate people to be on succession plans, and then as someone is building their succession plan, they can look at those nominations and say, well, this manager way over here that I don't know but knows this person really well thinks that this person has this potential to take on this kind of role. So I can be a little bit more holistic in my view of the talent, and I can consider additional succession candidates as I'm building my plans and have a truer picture of the actual leadership pipeline that might be available to succeed in that role. So again, ever evolving, and in fact, I know that there's a new design group that's been built to think about how to handle external candidates on succession plans within Workday as well. So ever evolving, and we love the succession planning functionality.
Thanks for adding that on. I do think that is an important point, is that, our customers are our design partners. They help us to make our solution better. So we definitely work with them to take their suggestions to how they're using Workday and how we could do things that they do in their organization that we might not do today. So I had forgotten you were a design partner for that. So thank you for adding that.
Sure.
We've talked a lot about getting the whole business involved and why talent is so important to the organization. So George is wondering, what insights did your business leaders find most valuable?
I would tell you that I don't know the answer to that yet, only because we deployed less than 30 days ago. So I will tell you that right now, just some of the dashboards that we've been able to put in place to understand how we're progressing along the year-end performance review has been something that has been exciting for our organization to be able to actually monitor the progress and see how people are doing. That was not possible before. So that's one thing that I know they're doing, and it does kind of show who takes it seriously and, that sort of thing. But I can't tell you yet. It's just too early days.
Okay. And we've talked about outsourcing a lot, too, and Patricia's wondering if all services are supported internally or if you have an external contact center partners.
We, as part of our initial transformation, went to an outsourcer. That did not work for us, so it's all insourced now.
Jen is wondering if you use any tools other than a 9-box for succession planning.
We actually don't use a 9-box ourselves. We have not configured that piece of it. So that's one of the other things that I think is really cool about Workday is that's not something that we leverage at day and day. So we just haven't configured it into our version of it, and we don't display it, and that's just fine, right? But it is available if we chose at one point to use it. But we don't use 9-box right now.
Yeah, and I'll add on, Michelle and I talked a little bit about succession planning and kind of the things you can use. But, obviously you have your analytics and you have your talent review process that you can use for succession planning. And really it's everything that you have about your worker, that full picture of your worker that allows you to define your succession plans and who might be possible candidates.
That's right.
For them.
Great. We have a question here about learning and development. Edwin is wondering what Workday does to support employee learning and development.
So in terms of learning and development, we have partners that we work with and I'm assuming you're talking about learning management systems. So we have integration partners for learning management today.
Okay. And is there an application process for hiring new candidates?
So one of what's on our roadmap and what will be available early next year is Workday Recruiting, which will allow you to do, to do the full candidate management.
Great. Along those lines, people are wondering about an applicant tracking module. Can you go a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah. So as I mentioned in early next year, we will be introducing Workday Recruiting, and we don't like to call it an ATS because yes, I will be able to track my applicants within Workday Recruiting, but it's way more than an ATS. It will allow you to manage your candidates, to manage referrals. It's collaborative. It's mobile first, so we actually developed it on a mobile platform for both your candidates and for your employees and referrals, and as well as for your hiring manager. It's also going to allow you to track both your internal and external candidates together, which I think will be a very nice feature. And obviously the key things that Workday already delivers in terms of reporting analytics and that configurable business process are really all just wrapped into our recruiting solution. It'll be the same interface, same tools. So again, just another addition to our unified platform.
I think we have time for 2 more questions I picked out too that I think are really great. The first one is, does Workday have any capability to plan for future positions, a bridge with resource planning and finance forecasting? What Erin is wondering is the chairs, not just for the people already in the chairs.
Yes, we absolutely allow you to plan for positions, and really it's kind of that workforce planning, if you will. And so Workday does allow for that as well. And we are unified, so with not just, today we're talking about it in the context of HCM, but we're unified with financials as well on our solution. So yes, we are able to handle that.
Great. And the last question was, what does success look like for Johnson & Johnson? Michelle, I think people want to know, what are your end goals? And I know that this is fairly new, but what are you hoping will happen?
I think what we're hoping will happen is what probably everyone on the phone is hoping will happen in their organizations, is that they have a strong view of their talent. They're able to deploy that talent in the right place so that you can really meet the strategic objectives of the organization and continue to grow and offer the value that you do in the market. So, for us, it's about Workday giving us visibility to the talent. And then it's up to our business leaders to take the information that now will be at their fingertips to say, okay, how do I make the right differentiated investments in my talent? How do I grow their capabilities? How do I line them up against the right opportunities? And, how do I deliver against the value in the market? So the fact that we can get this all in one place through Workday gets us that huge step forward that then our business leaders need to take it from there.
Great. Well, like I said, those are all the questions we had time for. We do have a lot more that we unfortunately didn't get to. So I suggest listening to the broadcast again when that's available, getting in touch with Michelle and Christina. And thank you again, Michelle and Christina, and thanks to the people at Workday especially for sponsoring this event. But mostly thanks to all of you in the audience for your participation today.